Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Pereira. Army Chief General Bipin Rawat on Saturday said that there are women officers engaged in exercises like mining and demining operations and also manning the air defense system, but cited difficulties in assigning them frontline combat roles. He said that in frontline combat, there are risks of officers getting killed. In combat, when body bags come back, our country is not ready to see that, the Army Chief added. We have women officers as engineers. They are doing mining and demining work. In air defense, they are manning our weapon systems. But we have not put women in frontline combat because what we are engaged in right now is a proxy war like in Kashmir. He cited logistical reasons also behind not posting women on front lines. The Army Chief questioned whether a woman officer with commanding responsibilities can stay away from her post for long. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyze if women should be in combat roles. Joining me on the program today are Lieutenant Colonel Ankita Srivastava, retired defense expert, Captain Anubha Rathod, defense expert as well, Major General Ashwini Sivach, defense expert, and Ajay Banerjee, defense correspondent, The Tribune. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Lieutenant Colonel Ankita Srivastava, I'd like to begin the program with you, and I'd like to hear from you what you think of the Army Chief's comments about women in combat roles.
Well, it's been 26 years since women officers have been inducted. It was in 1992, and India has come a long way since then. We have evolved, so has the Army has evolved too. And I don't find any difficulty in going into the combat role. Like as General Rawat said about the peeping toms, let me remind you, when we were inducted in the initial phase, that is in 1992 and 90, that was the time then the Jawans or even the officers had not accepted us in the folds. We had to literally prove, and there were peeping toms then also, but Army adequately punished them. There is a moral code of conduct in every institution, so the Army also had the same thing. And I remember very well Jawans or miscreant officers who have been indulging in such activities, they were adequately punished. So the question that now they will have peeping toms in the tents, I don't accept that at all. We have lots of facilities today to have
you know, Ankita Srivastava, that's just one aspect of it. That's just one aspect of it. He has spoken about several other things as well, about women coming back in body bags, about women being captured on the front lines. What about those kind of issues?
Even that is acceptable. I mean, if we have joined the force, we are ready. When we hold the weapon, we know that we may also get killed. It's not that we are expecting us to be always sane in the frontline aspects. And we are prepared. The women are prepared. Women have actually evolved a lot since the time we have joined in those times. And secondly, General Rawat said that...
Okay, we seem to have lost the line there with Ankita Srivastava will try and reconnect with that line. But before that, General, several aspects really as far as bringing women into the fold, into combat roles are concerned. What is, what are the problems or what are the difficulties really?
Frank, the difficulties are numerous. The point is that let's understand as to how the woman has come into Indian Army. That when India got independence, the women were there in Indian Army, basically in medical branch and education branch. It is in 1992 when the doors were opened for them for short service, basically in logistics support, education, JAG branch and technical arm, whether it is EME, engineers or signals. And they have performed extremely well, but they were only considered for short service and they were not considered for permanent commission. However, from Independence Day of this year, the Prime Minister has announced that they will be now also considered for permanent commission. So in a very gradual and phased manner, that initially they were not there, then they were taken, then they were not given a permanent commission, now they have been given a permanent commission also. So automatically the next phasing step is a time will come when they possibly will be also taken in a combat arm. But there are certain problems on ground, you must understand it. In war, there are no runners up. You go for war to win the war. So therefore, there are a number of problems. Let me cite you the problem of line of control. I have commanded a brigade on a Matsal sector where the temperature drops down to almost 30 to 40 degree. Then in bunker of
minus 30
to 40 degree, and on a bunker of almost about 9 to 9 feet, officer is sharing it with other 3 to 4 men. There are no hygienic condition. You do not have anything else. and there is a continuous firing being done by the Pakistanis. And there are sniper, there is a artifier which is coming, there is a threat of bat action. Imagine a lady officer staying there in those trying conditions. This thing. See, I'm just trying to go. Let me build up that.
No, I asked Ankita Srivastava a question as well. So I'm going to interject and ask you a question as well. But if the woman is ready to go through all of this, why not allow her?
Absolutely correct. It is the will of the woman officer. It is appreciated. After all, they have done extremely well in combat arm, as like a sport combat arm like engineer, where demining, mining has been done. But it has come in a gradual and fashion. So automatically I understand they have come. But it is not the will of him. We have to also understand what are the ground. As a leader, I am supposed to give her the conditions which are ideally suited for her. My point is, when I have got something substitute who can do a better job in those conditions, then I must take that. My point is that you don't have to have a second, you have to have a winner. I am trying to understand that thing is, the trying conditions are so harsh, it not possible. She is commanding men, and men are only, there are no jawans as far as the ladies are concerned, they are all men. And she has to share with them on a line of control where there is a border action team which can take place. You need to go across and attack them like surgical strike. So my point is, we are in no way, the chief has given an impression that they will never be taken. It is only this time will come, they will be taken in combat arm also. Okay. As on today, there's no. Second issue which I want to tell you is that understand what happened when an infantry is going for a war. When they have to physically attack the enemy post, in last 100 meters they put a bayonet and they charge the enemy. And in last 50 meters it is hand-to-hand fight with the enemy. Imagine, that sort of scenario which is there. It is very easy to appreciate that, but when you have to go through it, you understand you need a person who is physically very fit and who has got that psychological impact on the enemy. And the another point which you are saying, that as an Indian nation, are we prepared that a woman will be made as a prisoner of war? Are we prepared a woman body bags coming? So these are the issues which we need to take into consideration, taking a final decision.
Okay, that's another aspect of it completely. We'll have to probably discuss that a little later on in the program, whether the society is ready for something like this or not, and should we be concerned about what the society thinks and believes. But before that, Captain Anubha Rathore, what are the biggest risks as far as women in combat roles are concerned, and are the women or the officers in the armed forces aware of these risks?
See, definitely they are aware, and this is a deliberate decision. If a woman thinks that she can do it, so definitely she can do it. I don't think, definitely I appreciate the concern which the chief has shown and sir has shown, that how to protect them in that scenario. But let the woman decide. See, we have seen since the time women have been inducted, the number has gone up. So that means they are doing well. That is how the number has gone up. Now here they are citing an example which is very frivolous, that the administrative capacities are not that. So building up administrative capacity is the main issue, not about the women being ready or not. This is what they have been talking about. And like Colonel Ankita just said, that we have a certain code of conduct in place, and there are things which are happening disciplinary ground. So in case such thing happens, then definitely that can be taken care of. But something which has not happened, you just cannot say that it will never happen. And we were pretty hopeful when the chief took over, that he was pro-inducting women in the combat arm. So now after his almost end of the tenure, he says the same thing where we started. So it is very disheartening. Instead of doing some spade work to giving a way for the women to come in the combat role, instead at the end of his tenure, he's saying that it is very difficult, and he's citing examples of administrative issues, which is, I don't think is very, very welcoming.
Okay.
And I feel women are definitely ready, given a chance. Unless and until you give chance, you don't know whether it is a failure or not. So before that, if you're anticipating and thinking that this will not happen, cannot happen, mindset is this, mindset is that, I don't agree with it.
Okay, fair enough. Points well taken. Ajay Banerjee, when you're dealing with life and death, that's what the armed forces really deal with on a daily basis in combat roles in the front line. Can you take a chance?
I will not say take a chance or no. See, Frank, my opinion about this is, first of all, let the chief and the Indian Army decide what is the right time for women to be inducted in combat roles. Let the army take a call on it. Let them take 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Let them conduct a study. What is to be done? Let them also conduct a social analysis study of the country. Is the country ready, as you and General Sahab has pointed out, is the country ready to accept women in body bags? See, our country is a very emotional country. Yeah. We may be ready to accept a man's body in a body bag. But what about a woman's? A social analysis study has to be conducted for this. And let the army do it. If the chief is saying the time has not come, I would say, don't go by his words immediately. But the Indian Army and the government should say, okay, set a time frame, have a study in what more roles can women come in. They have come into several roles. They are doing a good job. There is no doubt about it. But what more roles? Like General Sahab has pointed out Machal, I can point out 10 more examples, but that will be futile on this show. But there are 10 more good examples also. Women may be upright in certain issues and they are better qualified to handle some issues. That's given. But I would say let the Indian Army decide a proper study on all aspects, the socio-economic aspect of the country, the how the society takes it, and crucially, which everybody is missing it. See, all these boys come from villages. In the Indian Army, the officer has to lead. Are these boys ready to be led by a woman? This is also should be part of the study. Absolutely. Should be part of the study. I am not saying they are not ready, but do a proper study. Which regiment is ready for it? Induct them only in those regiments. Say start off with some other regiment. I would not say infantry straight into direct into infantry or para or something. Start off somewhere, but have a time frame. That is what my take is, Frank.
Okay, I think that's a very valid submission that you made. They have a time frame. Consider, take all aspects into consideration, and then come up with a decision. Really, as far as this is concerned. Ankita Srivastava, as far as some of the concerns for women in the combat arms are concerned, there are several concerns that have been raised by the panelists, by the Army Chief himself as well. How can some of these challenges be overcome, do you think?
Firstly, I want people to make a study and a policy. It's been 26 years. I am again going to reiterate what I said in my last show, that we have not yet come over the policy. We have not yet made policy on women officers induction. We were inducted in a jiffy and then we did our best. Hence, we were given extension of 5 years, then another 4 years. Now, because of the court, we are staying back in the Indian Army. Not that the Army has asked us to stay based on certain policies. So, we need to frame our policies. We need to study. As Mr. Mukherjee said, that we have to really make a good study and research program based on that. It's very saddening to hear General Rawat saying at the fag end of his tenure that we cannot be inducted. As Anubha said, we would have been happier if he would have said, we are doing the research, we are doing the study work, we have found these obstacles and now we are planning to overcome these obstacles this way. That would have been more heartening. We are not saying induct us without any preparation. We are saying, do your study and then induct us. Secondly, about Mr. Mukherjee's statement that about the leading thing, we have already women have already been leaders in the Indian Army. We are trained to become leaders. In fact, all army officers are trained to become leaders and they have been doing, whether be it in drill, parades or in various occasions, we have shown our best as a leader. So the same applies in the battlefield as well. So we would be doing the same, so as and when the time will come.
Okay, all right. Yes, Ajay Banerjee, you want to
interject? I'm not doubting the leadership qualities of the woman. My suggestion is, in the study, incorporate, are the men who come from villages ready to be led by women into combat? When the commander says attack, it is a matter of life and that. Are they ready? Do a study. That's what I'm saying. Okay. I'm not doubting the leadership abilities of women.
I think you were very clear on that. Let me go across to the general. I think he's going to be the apt person to answer this question. This issue of whether the Jawans are going to listen to an officer who is a woman, in a combat zone, in a conflict zone. Is that really going to happen? Also, will they be willing to take orders from women?
Frank, you have to see it this way. Absolutely correct. This is a big challenge. See, point is that today there are women officers in engineers, signal, which are combat support role, very close to combat. They are far, greater role than the logistic like ordnance and ASC, and somewhere in between the ordnance, ASC and the combat role. So they are doing mining, demining. They are also there on line of control at some places. They are also on CICT. They have been inducted and fighting counter-insurgency in Kashmir Valley. But they are all secondary duty. They are not frontline. What happened in line of control or in a war, which is a combat arm where you have to have a physical contact with the enemy, where you have to lead the man for life and death. That is where the crunch point comes of the leadership. We must understand that. No one is doubting them. Today they have performed extremely well in a technical arm called EME, engineers and signals. And the scope and the strength of the lady officer is going to be increased. As on today, they are only 1500 plus, which is on, less than even 5%. So there is a requirement of taking more. The chief has already told the scope and strength going to be increased. They are going to be taken in a cyber security, information technology, artificial intelligence, audit and accounts. So therefore, this is increasing. As far as combat arm is concerned, I feel it is a gradual fashion. It is a, you can say, a dynamic process. We are inching toward it, but it will take a time. There are challenges which have been brought, that whether the men are ready to be led by a lady officer in a combat situation, when you have to attack the enemy post and last 50 meters, there will be hand-to-head fight. So this is a challenge. That does not mean they are not ready. We are saying it's a challenge. It will take time. Let the country be prepared for it. And nowhere ever the Indian Army is doubting the contribution of a woman officer. They are part and parcel of Indian Army. They are asset of Indian Army. They have performed extremely well in services, whether it is logistic or whether it is a technical arm like you can say engineers, signals and EME. So our only issue is that it will take slightly more time. The way Air Force has gone it, they have first brought those pilots in Hepter as well as in transport. Now they have graduated to a fighter aircraft only for air defense. Only for air defense. There is a catch there. They are not going across in the enemy territory. They will be only countering the enemy aircraft in your own territory. Same way, I am sure in time to come, Indian Army will also induct the woman into combat arm. But to now, it does not seem that we are fully prepared. Let this there be a solution which is evolved over a period of time. Let the society be prepared for it. Let the Indian Army be prepared for it.
But the problem really with that, like the Lieutenant Colonel suggested, was that there is no real policy in place, and how long are we going to wait for something like this to happen? Anubarato, do women in the armed forces at some level feel neglected, feel that, they're not being given their due?
Definitely, I would agree with that, because firstly, there is no policy in place. There is no time span given to it that, okay, after 5 years, 6 years, 8 years, country would be ready to take them on. Whereas if you ask their psychology, women are ready. It is just matter of training which they need in a particular environment. Probably they'll be ready. But there is no substantial commitment from the policy makers and the government which is coming through. So which is very, very disheartening.
All right. Ajay Banerjee, it's not like we've not seen women in combat roles. We have seen women in combat roles in other countries as well. They are in the front line and they are doing everything else that someone else does. So why not us? And why can't we take away something from there?
Frank, as I always say, let us not compare the condition of the US Army with our army. One, their financial status, their social status. I will add one more thing to the list of ticks which appear is, see, woman who is, say, a young captain at the age of 30, gets killed in line of duty, she may have a small child. Is the society ready to accept a motherless child? See, these are things which society will answer. These are things which Indian Army cannot answer. See, men, all the troops come from rural backgrounds, as I told in the earlier submission also. What is their mental status? That is a critical point. The army may want it, it's okay with them, I'm very sure, but it's okay with them. Women are serving as engineers elsewhere, even as combat pilots, they are okay.
Let's not take the United States as an example, but as a country, our history also has shown us that women have led us to victory on several occasions.
They have, undoubtedly they have. But see, those were times different. Those were independent rulers, what they did. This is a country run by the constitution, where the Indian Army, if not directly answerable to the people, it's answerable through the parliament and through the MPs. As I earlier also said, let us have a study of all aspects. Let us not rush into it. The chief says something, then we rush into it. Have a proper time frame, policy based study. that these are the aspects of the study. Let it broaden. Let the women and child ministry come in. Let the psychoanalyst ministry come in. Let the human resource come in. Let everybody come in. Make a holistic study. Yes, we want women into combat. Yes. If yes, please go ahead.
Okay, all right. We'll have to look into all the aspects. First, a holistic study is required. Only then we should go forward is what Ajay Banerjee is suggesting. But, you know, a question that has been repeatedly raised during the course of this discussion was, is the society ready to see women in combat roles? Ankita Srivastava.
Yes, I would like to clarify one thing which is repeatedly coming. The men, the Jawans come from the rural background. Yes, I agree. Even 25 years back, they were from the rural background. And I, as an individual officer, have faced initial hiccups in establishing my leadership quality or my identity in front of my men. There was various instances where the men refused to even salute us. And I'm sure Anubha would have also felt the same thing initially. But then, how did we evolve today? It's been 26 years. Men from the rural areas are also pretty evolved. The internet, the exposure, the kind of society we have now created, people are much aware. And second thing I want to clarify, we are talking about our men ready to take orders from our women leaders. May I tell you, sir, this leadership or the camaraderie is not built in a day. They see the women officers, they see their leaders performing from the day. Even as an ordnance officer or an ASC officer who goes on an attachment to the defense, to the infantry unit, they stay there for 1 year. They build a rapport with their men. Then those men take orders from those people. They are all infantrymen, but they take orders from them. It is built over a period of time. So I don't know why people are getting confused that why will they take orders from a woman. The woman is going to stay there for a year, 2 years, 3 years in a unit or in a regiment. So the camaraderie is going to be built up. That is how they will take the orders.
You know, the camaraderie as far as the army is concerned is also a sense of brotherhood, and probably that's what some of the army men or the Jawans will feel is not there. But isn't that a problem really as far as the army is concerned? And the women shouldn't be bearing the brunt of that, General? At the end of the day, the Jawans, you know, can't take it and can't take orders from a woman. The army is all about discipline. The army should ensure that, you know, something like this happens.
Absolutely. See, the point is that two issues which have been raised. One is that the ASC ordnance officer, they are doing attachment with infantry unit in line of control on combat duty. The requirement are twofold, because you need young officer and there is a requirement, young officers are not there. So initially the ASC officer and ordnance officer, before they join the unit, they are also sent with the infantry unit. The second issue which is coming is that this point are coming very well from them only, that at times the man response is not up to the mark. Now here it is a peace time, you can take corrective action. Imagine in war when you are going, when there is a question of life and death, where there are no runner-up. If this sort of hitch comes, what will happen to the nation? So therefore, the point is not that they are not prepared. They are. I am telling time will take time. Otherwise, it is in a gradual fashion. Let us, you know, the society be evolved. Let everyone else be mentally prepared. Let the man should also think. You know, initially they were never a leader, even in peacetime, even in logistics sport, even in this combat sport arm. Now they have been taken. And next graduation step is they will be taken combat arm.
So you are
but
suggesting that
time has not come.
Yes.
Let the time be matured. Let the society be evolved. Let us be sanitized on that issue. Let the thing come from us. It is a good sign. The women are feeling themselves. They are ready. Let the society also feel it. Let the Indian Army feel it.
Okay.
Because it is the ultimately who is responsible for Indian Army is the Chief of Army Staff.
Right.
He would have given thought to all permutation, combination, plus and minus. The nation is going to ask him when he goes for war, we need victory. There can't be runners up in the war.
Okay.
Please understand this issue.
All right, all right. Captain Anwar Rathore, what is it that a woman officer really looks for as far as getting into a combat role, or as far as the army itself is concerned? Is it equality? Is it a challenge that they're looking for? Something like, you know, if a man can do it, then why can't I? What is it really?
See, I don't know why we are still stuck on that same question, that why, when men can do it, why can't we? Firstly, it is not that we want to be like men. We are just drawing a parallel that, see, if you, these days the war has changed. It is not orthodox type of war when you're going, you know, doing ghop nikal thing. That is not happening. If you see that insurgency or various situations are there in the cities where, you know, the IAS officer or police officers, they are women and they are doing very well. So what kind of society are we asking answers for? I think society is already ready. It is the army being probably very protective, or they are unable to frame any kind of society. So I think the challenges are definitely that, you know, that kind of infrastructure, maybe that kind of mindset and that kind of training. That is what it
All right,
is.
Ajay Banerjee, please close the show for us with your concluding remarks.
See, Frank, I'll be very, very honest about it. There is no doubt that the women may be ready. The army, I think, needs to conduct a holistic study, as I said earlier also. I agree with Captain Rathore on one point, that the police women IPS are already functioning in several counterinsurgency areas, and they are being accepted by the men in their police forces. With regards to the army, see, the Air Force has already inducted women in fighter jets. The Navy girls are already flying the PA-TIE, which is a combat platform. It fires harpoons at the submarines. I think the army should, as I say, try which is the place they can go. Armored possibly to start with, or infantry, artillery, where? That is for the army to decide, the chief to decide. There is no question that women are not ready. They are definitely ready. Logistics is an issue. Then let the Army Act, people who do such hanky-panky, let them face punishment under the Army Act. However, at the end, I would also say that let the chief decide, let him take his time, but it has to be done today, tomorrow, 5 years, 10 years later, this has to be done. Should be time-fixed study, I believe.
Okay, it should be a time-fixed study. It's just a matter of time, really, before we see our women in combat roles, is what the panelists are suggesting. And we need a holistic study going forward, and to ensure that everyone is on board when this decision is taken. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. That's it from me. See you again next time.